for me, the passion that I have about discipleship on a personal level is intimacy with Jesus, intimacy with the Father. And I don't believe that, if we're going to be disciples of Jesus Christ, we cannot do it without an intimate and real relationship with him. He has so much that he wants to disclose, what he wants to share about his heart and about my heart, my own experience with intimacy with God, is that he's revealed so many things about me that I was not perhaps aware of. And intimacy with God for me is a heart issue. It's about opening my heart to him, being vulnerable to him and trusting him, because he has my best interests at heart. So it's about vulnerability, openness, honesty, and just being real with him. Because, God is interested in us being real with him. We can trust him, we can go to him, we can fellowship with him. And, when I look at the Father's relationship with Jesus, it was a real relationship. And I wanted that for myself. So for me, discipleship is the cog, relationship is the cog, the main cog in a wheel around which my...
And how does it look like on a daily basis?
On a daily basis, you mentioned my book, 40 Days in His Presence. And for me, on a daily basis, it's about spending quality time with him, building time into my day with him on a daily basis, relentlessly pursuing him through the word, through prayer, through worship, and through then coming out of that place and doing what he's asked me to do. Because for me, relationship builds when I walk in obedience with him, try to, on a daily basis, go into his presence. What is he saying? What does he want me to do? What does he want me not to do? Who does he want me to go to? It's that type of thing.
And what can we learn from the relationship that Jesus had with the Father? Was he praying a lot, because he was always ministering? How does it look like?
Yeah, for me, one of the things I've picked up from Jesus' relationship with his Father, he never did anything that God didn't tell him to do, if that makes sense. Their relationship was so tight and was so real. The relationship was unbreakable. It was like a covenant. It's a bit of a strong word, perhaps, but it's like a covenant. They're always together. He was always listening to his Father, taking instruction from his Father, taking direction from his Father. And I'm reminded of the time when Jesus was, they'd been to the temple, and Jesus' family had gone off, and they were looking for him. Where's he gone? We've lost him. And he said, did you not know it's about my Father's business? It was always about doing what pleased God, doing what honored God, doing those things that put God first, those things that gave God pleasure. That was what his intimacy with the Father was like. And so from that, I thought, well, I want a bit of that action. I want to be a little bit like that. And so, yeah.
I think one of the hard questions, and when the challenge for many would be, and for me as well, is sometimes you don't feel like praying. And what would be your advice when?
Well, it's something that you have to cultivate, really, and it's something that you have to nurture and to nourish and to water. It's like a seed. I think you talked about seed. It's something that there's a seed there, and you think, okay, I don't feel like praying. But, there's something that comes alive on the inside of you once you recognize that Jesus wants to take time with you. Jesus wants your presence. He's jealous for our presence. He's jealous for our time. He's jealous for our attention and our affection. And any relationship that we're truly serious about, it takes time, and it takes effort, and it takes a relentless pursuit of him. My desire was, once I recognized that he wanted to use me, that was a big thing. Well, how's he going to use me? What does he want to do? What does he want to say? And those sort of things drove me towards, getting closer to God and getting people to pray with me and to help me You know, with these areas like prayer, would you pray for me? I'm finding it difficult to pray. I'm finding it difficult to read my word. I'm finding it difficult to worship and open my heart. You know, as Ben said, we need each other to help us on the road to relationship. We need relationships, you know, generally to help us to build and to encourage us along the way, because you know, no man is an island. We cannot do it on our own. So a relationship with God, the Father, and a relationship with other people will help. Personally, helped me when I was open. It's about being honest and vulnerable, and you know, we have weaknesses, we have flaws, we have issues that we need to deal with, but Jesus wants to help us with that. That's why He's given us, in our context, the cell.
Is it normal to have ups and downs in our
Absolutely.
relationship with God?
It is normal, but I think for me, as you get older, you learn to sort of overcome some of the things. But yes, it is, you know, there are hard knocks in life. Things happen, things that you have no control over, things that sometimes we do have control over, but can knock us off course. But the thing is, you know, don't allow that to put you off. Don't say, well, I missed my time today, or I didn't do this, or I didn't do any, well, I wasn't good at this. Jesus is always wanting you to come to Him, always wanting you to enter into His presence. It doesn't matter what we've done or haven't done or how we feel. We can't rely on our feelings, because our feelings let us down, actually, or mislead us sometimes. You know, so we need to be, you know,
And it's a lot, sometimes about, I find our mindset is kind of hindering us. Is there, kind of a hard question, but is there one truth that you hold on to in those hard times that would help us and that help you to always come back to God?
Yeah, there's a verse in Galatians that says that, I'm paraphrasing it, but it says, never give up doing the right things that you should do, because in due season you will reap fruit. I can't remember the exact, but that has helped me a lot, not to give up. I think I use the word relentless, you know, and no matter how we feel, and no matter how things may look, He says that keep doing it, keep going at it, keep pressing in, keep pushing forward, and keep believing that God is for you and wants the very best for you in your relationship with Him. Your relationship with Him is like I said, to me, it's the cog in the wheel of life, as it were. I cannot and will not allow myself to be discouraged to the point where I won't come to God about anything. I'll always, because intimacy with God is a key for me, so I'll always, that's my go-to place. That's my place of, I want to hear what God's got to say. I want to hear what God is doing. I want to get my heart right, because it's a heart issue. You know, relationships come from the heart, the way that we connect, the way that we interact, the way that we receive, the way that we believe. It's a heart issue. And yeah, I don't know if that helps, but yeah.
No, that's very, very helpful. Thank you so much, Bertie. So now we come to Sandra. So same question. When you think about discipleship, what's the main thing you think about?
Well, I was gonna touch on what Beverly said, that for me, it would be intimacy with God, but because she already talked about this, let's touch on something else. For me, it's a lot of this privilege that God gives us, that God gives me, to be His disciple. I don't come from a Christian background. I've never read the Bible before I became I didn't know anything about this thing called church or the Bible. And now, just the thought that God can use me in the marketplace where I find myself, it's unbelievable to me that I can bring God wherever I am. And I really take a lot of just pride, really. And again, this privilege to just break down people's mindsets about God. Because
so you mean in your workplace, you manage to share the gospel?
Well, yes, I don't have I work from home, so I don't really go into a place, with a lot of people. But yes, I'm in touch with a lot of people.
Yeah, what do you tell us?
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Sam.
I'm a yacht broker, so I organize yachting.
So if you want to have a yacht for the next weekend, you know who to ask.
Yeah.
Can we have yachts on the Thames, or is it? No?
Yeah.
We have to
I need a lot of space for the mast to go through. Okay. So with the bridges, it's kind of tricky. but in the Mediterranean instead of
Okay.
the Caribbean.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have to fly there.
So I spend a lot of time, when I used to crew for a long time. I don't crew now anymore because I got married and it's kind of tricky to disappear for a few months per year. But it was fun. So when I do spend a lot of time with people, with a very different type of people that you don't meet on the street like every day because, it's a different environment. And then this kind of God comes up in our conversation because I would say things like, I went to church on a Sunday, so what do you do? Like church, like what? Or I went to Bible school, or, and I do this on purpose to kind of, see where people are at, or when they kind of swear or bring God's name in a place where it doesn't belong. So it kind of opens up a lot of things for conversation. And for me, it's a real privilege to, just be kind of, and challenge them like, really? How do you know that about God? Do you know him? Oh, so just, it's a lot of fun as well for me.
Okay. And so that would be maybe the way you bear fruits. And how do you experience the intimacy part? Do you, what does it mean for you in your daily life?
I think that's fundamental for me to know. As I said, I didn't grow up knowing God, so I only got saved 10 years ago in this church. And so for me, it was a very new thing, and it still is. It's a discovery journey every day. For me, it's a very kind of spontaneous relationship that I have with God. I don't want to see it as like a rigorous thing. Let's do this and then read the Bible and then pray and then work. It's a continuum during the day. I do have my daily reading plan, and so I sit down and I read the Bible in the morning. But it's like talking to somebody who is very close to you, so a family member or your spouse if you're married, or you talk to this person all the time. You don't just talk to this person for 1 hour a day and then you're next to each other, and God is with us all the time. So it's just having that conscious, like the awareness of that He's there with you.
And as an entrepreneur, I guess there's a lot of risks that come into play. How do you commit your business as well to God, and how does this part work?
What do you mean risks? Bringing faith in?
Yes. You are your own boss, and I guess there's a lot of pressure, finding clients, etc. So is it something that has been easy for you? And
no, it's not easy being an entrepreneur. No, it's not easy, and it's nearly now 20 years that I've been doing this. So no, it's not easy, but I do rely on God a lot. And yeah, God has done amazing things, and I keep reminding myself whenever there is, difficulties, or you go through ups and downs, and then you kind of, what's going on? Where are the clients? Where is the business? One of the biggest testimonies for me is when I gave up my whole year, in fact, 2 years of my life to go to Bible school here. That was the time where I had the most business, and I was working half-time. It is crazy, and every time, I always had to keep reminding myself that God is capable. He brings people into the business. He just brings clients. Obviously, there is things that I need to do and, take part and advertise and, but He does a lot. He does a lot because, I just submit everything.
So if there is any entrepreneur here, is there any entrepreneur here? It's an interesting question. Mm-hmm. Would you have an advice for them?
Yes, just to rely on God, to give it all to Him, and because it all belongs to Him anyway, and everything you do is for His glory anyway, and He knows the best how to do things. And as I said, in this intimacy part, He tells you, He gives you this like tiny, nibbles and bits to chew on, and when you have decisions to make, you just go to Him like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And He will tell you things to do that, sometimes they're not really intuitive. You wouldn't really do them yourselves. But He's great.
Thank you so much, Sandra. So now we're coming to David. So, sir, if I tell you discipleship, what do you tell me?
I think for me, what I enjoy about discipleship is the fact that it's outward focused as well. So there is a need to go out and make disciples. One thing which was quite interesting about Jesus is that a lot of the things that were documented within the Bible was him going out, visiting people, seeing people, miracles, and they were all of those things were outside of the church. So it's important for us to have a desire which is very much outward focused. We know the Great Commission. The Great Commission states that all authority, well, first and foremost, Jesus says, all authority in heaven and earth is given to me. So go out and make disciples. So that's something which I think speaks very highly to me, is the fact that there's a massive focus on going out there and making disciples. So that's one of the things that strongly.
So, and how do you do that? Do you have a story of how it works?
Well, first and foremost, the reason why I am actually here is because somebody took up that commission. So it's very interesting that I think it's important that we all think about that. The person who is discipling you right now clearly embodied the commission. So you should have a desire to literally pass on that message, to do likewise, to go out there and make disciples. And I would really challenge those that may not have that as their heart's calling, why it's not that way. Why you don't have a desire to go out there and make disciples. It's funny because John 3:16, it says, "For God so loved the world that he gave." So Christ is a gift, and it's a gift that was given to me, so I received that gift. And it was a gift which I appreciate because obviously there has been a transformation in my life. And it's just in my nature to want to share that gift with others. And again, like I said, I'll challenge those that don't have that as their heart desire to question why you don't want to share what's been shared with you.
Okay. Do you still have like some, would you say, some mentors in the faith? And so I guess we need, as disciples, to have people we look up to, people who we do life with, and people we train. Mm-hmm. Do you have all these three categories?
Yes, I do. I'm currently in a cell, and I do study on Wednesdays, which means I can't go to the cell that I attend. But what my cell leader has arranged is that we meet up every 2 weeks via a FaceTime or any other video platform, and then we do face-to-face once a month. That's something that's helped me in terms of my own spiritual growth. I've started a cell just about 6 months ago. I started that cell, started 6 months ago, even though I was studying. Glory be to God. Even though I was studying, it was a challenge for me. But again, like I said, it was my mandate that the way that I was discipled, it's my heart's desire to do that likewise to others. So it's just a passion just to, like I said, work with people, support them, and help them grow in the Lord.
And what would be your advice? So, because as a church, we really want to go into the world rather than only come into the service. Mm-hmm. So, how can we spawn that attitude of heart, and how do we do it?
I would answer that question in two ways. A simple answer is just obey. So, if we're going to say the Great Commission is true, it says go out there and make disciples. So if you want to answer it very simply, it's to obey that commission. But then to go a bit deeper, I think it's to work in two ways. We're called to be, well, we can be either one or two things. We can be thermometers or thermostats. So it's an analogy. A thermometer or a thermostat. And it's an analogy which I will unpack. So a thermometer just basically reflects the environment. So you can go into an environment and reflect that environment. That's a thermometer. And Peter was someone who just went there, and whatever the environment was, he would just reflect it. Or we can be thermostats. We can actually go out there and set the temperature. And we have that kind of mandate to go out there and make a difference. Paul was one of those who went out there and set the environment. He wrote so many books or letters to churches to set the environment. So it's our calling to be thermostats. So I think it's about that, like to simply obey, but then go out there and to be thermostats.
Thank you, David. Thanks a lot. So for you, Jordan, I'm just going to phrase it a little bit different. I would say, what is hard for you in being a disciple?
What's hard for me being a disciple?
What's the hardest?
I think the hardest thing for me about being a disciple is my posture, how I approach the actual being a disciple, because many people see it as, oh, I'm just praising God, I'm living for Jesus, but many people are not actually following the characteristics of Jesus. In Matthew, there's like the Beatitudes, the greatest sermon ever preached. And the first one is, blessed are those who are poor in spirit, for they inherit the kingdom of heaven.
What does it mean?
Poor in spirit. So if you look at poor in spirit, there's a sense of humility that comes with that. I'm humble enough to say that I'm broken. I'm humble enough to say that I'm weak. I'm humble enough to approach God in a posture that I know only He can fix what's the problem in me. So I don't go around with a spirit of pride, but I go around with a spirit of poor. I'm poor in spirit, but only He can fix it. So that sense of being discipled is so key, because I can only heal what I reveal. And it may take someone else to see that there's something wrong in me. My posture's not right. I'm not walking properly. And then they come to me and they'll be like, yo, something's wrong with you. Let me help you. Let me help fix that through the word, through transformation. And I just think, yeah, the posture, I think that's the hardest thing about being a disciple for me.
And so being a disciple obviously is being more like Jesus. Can we all live like Jesus? I mean, to what extent can we be really like Him? Like, He didn't have a home, He was just fully committed. Is it, what are the ways of God we can learn from Jesus?
Being a servant. Like, we don't understand that during them times, people lived a certain way. So I'm not saying everyone here start growing out their hair and growing beards and dress like Jesus did, because that's just, if you come here dressing like Jesus dressed in them times, you look funny. But His characteristics you can actually model. And I think when people tell me, is it possible to be like Jesus? The answer is yes. The question is, are you willing to be like Jesus? Jesus was a servant. Think about it, Jesus was a king in heaven, but a servant on earth. He walked on gold in heaven and washed people's feet on earth. The characteristics. He knew who He was in heaven, but He humbled Himself down. And when we talk about discipleship and who Jesus was, Jesus didn't hang around with people that could make Him popular. Jesus hung around with people that can actually cause Him controversy. The reason Jesus actually died on the cross was because of the people that He was helping. They didn't want Him to help. Jesus, you can't talk to prostitutes. Jesus, you can't talk to that. And the way I translate it in our day and era, Jordan, you can't talk to homosexuals. Get me? Jordan, you can't chill with her because she's a lesbian. Get me? Jordan, why are you chilling around with drug addicts? Jordan, why are you around gang-related people? Why am I around people that make me look bad? But I got something that I can give to them for free. Jesus was never meant to be a secret. And I think the issue is we've kept Jesus a secret. We act like He's dead. Get me? We move like He didn't raise from the dead. We keep Jesus in a bottle. And he's rattling that bottle now. That's why you see certain people are getting radical and certain people are getting crazy. And when I see people getting radical and crazy, the first thing I'm going to do is not tell them to calm down. I'm going to tell them, yo, I'm going to steer them in the right direction, because obviously I'm not going to try and get you crazy. But the element of being radical for Christ is so necessary. I think the issue with Christians today is that we're too quiet. The Muslims have taken our role. We were louder than them at one point. Now they're louder than us. So I think there's an element of shift that needs to happen with us as individuals that we need to acknowledge before we even attempt to be like Jesus. We need to understand what's wrong with me. Because Jesus was a different type of guy. Like, he wasn't, people always make him sound cute. Like, Jesus was this, nah. Jesus was a revolutionary, man. That guy, I put Jesus on the same bracket as Martin Luther King. He came down on this earth and he shook things up. So when people make Jesus sound like, oh, he was a lion, he was a lamb. Yeah, he was a lamb, but he was a lion at the same time.
It's crazy because when you think about it, when you think about Christian, the first thing or image you have is somebody quite kind, and I think Jesus was kind as well, but at the same time you speak about revolutionary. How can we also have those two things together in our life?
Yeah, because the role of a disciple is to change the world. A disciple is not meant to change. Once you've changed yourself, you've got a responsibility to change everything around you. So sorry, I forgot your question. What did you say? I'm going off.
So
somewhere else.
my question was, how can we, because Christian is being kind, so we need to be, Jesus was kind, but he was also revolutionary. How do these two things work together?
Kind and revolutionary. Your posture,
Yeah.
understanding that you're poor in spirit, so you don't rely on yourself. You're not you rely on God. You don't rely on your elements. That's the first thing. Understand why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Are you trying to change the world for you? Get me? I'm gonna go somewhere else with this. Yeah. Okay. Like understanding, like you're not here to. The world needs to be changed, not so that Jordan can be known as the guy that changed the world. So if I apply that to my mind and I actually act on that, I tell people I'm here to change the world because God gave me something that I believe everyone else needs. Not wants, needs. There's a need for Jesus. There's not, I can fly back, I don't need it. No, there's a need. That's the thing. And the biggest example of that, the biggest example this whole week, and I think for the last 6 months of discipleship, and I know people are going to be like, oh, but it's Kanye West. Yeah. It's Kanye West. People dogged Kanye.
Jesus is king.
Jesus is, I can't lie, Kanye is promoting the gospel more than certain pastors. Sorry, but it's true. I walked out of Notting Hill Gate Station, there's a billboard that says Jesus is king. And if you don't believe that God can use Kanye, why should I even let you have 5 minutes? Like, for real, like people need to realize God can change anyone. And I think the issue with us as people that we want to become disciples and want to disciple people is that we put people in places. We put people in brackets. God can't heal him. God can't change. Why can't God change Kanye? Why can't God change me? You hear me? So stop putting people in pedestals. There's no pedestal in the kingdom. There's no race in the kingdom. There's no levels in the kingdom. Get me? Everyone is a son and is a daughter. So if I see someone that needs help, I'm going to help them regardless of what they're wearing, regardless of what skin color they are, regardless of their sexuality. If a gay man wants to walk in this church, he can walk in this church. If a transgender wants to roll in this church, they can roll in this church. Because the same Jesus that healed me can heal them. It's not my job to change people. It's my job just to share the gospel. I'm done because I can go on for an hour.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, guys. So, just last question. If you could give one definition of discipleship, be follower of Jesus, what would it be? Yeah, a definition. Each, if you have each a few words. I should have told you that from the beginning, but...
I think for me it would be, we are Christ ambassadors. So we are going to represent Christ here on earth. So a Christ ambassador.
Thank you.
I would say impact.
In part?
Impact.
Impact.
The impact, yeah.
I would say that as a follower of Christ, we're like apprentices. You're like an apprentice where you follow, you sit at a master's feet, you follow, and then you do. So you're a practitioner of what you hear, practitioner of what you see your mentor, if you like, do.
Thank you.
A student.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you.